Hello, my name is Sip Mendes. Welcome to Sip's Wood Chips. And this week I made this bowl. And this is what's called, often called an economy bowl. The idea is that you draw the rings on the board and you cut the rings out at a 45-degree angle. Then you stack the rings to get this profile. Then you turn it on the lathe. This one's a little bit different. It's the two boards are joined with a dovetail joint. And if you guys know Bob Hamilton made one of these quite a while ago, and I was kind of fascinated by it. And also Robert in our woodturners group, he also did a demonstration on how to do these. So I'm going to show you how I made this bowl. And as always, make sure you read, understand, and follow all the instructions that come with your power tools and equipment. Woodworking is fun, but make sure that you work safely. This is a diagram of what I'm going to try to do. And this is the cutting of the flat board itself. And this is the dovetail in the center of each piece. And the center piece on the top surface is going to be 6 inches across. Across the bottom, the foot of the bowl should be around 4.5 inches. The next one out will be cut at 7.5 inches, 9 inches, and the full width of the board, which is about 10.5 inches. When it's assembled, it's going to look like this. They're going to be stacked. And so what basically is happening is this bottom corner, when stacked on top, will be resting here, and the inside tip about there. And so you can build the bowl. Also, I'm going to rotate them so that the seams don't line up, and that'll give it better for the gluing. They'll give a better gluing surface. And the only wood I have available right now is a piece of oak, and this one is 5.5 by about 11 inches, and so is the other one. The second one is made out of walnut. Okay. And this is reclaimed walnut. It used to be a dresser. So the opposite side has some paint on it. I'll have to remove that paint. So I'll go ahead and make a center cut on my oak piece. This is the piece of oak, and I made a center cut to lighten the load on my dovetail bit. This is one of those very narrow dovetail bits. It's not a full 1/2 inch. It's barely a 1/4 inch. So I've moved my fence closer to my bit so that it's cutting on the inside. So now you can see how I widened the dovetail. So now I'm going to do the walnut piece, and I'm going to start by just making a skim cut. I have about half of the bit exposed. On this pass, I'm getting pretty close, and what I want is a slip dovetail joint. I want it loose enough that I can slide these in and out easily. So it looks like I just need to expose just a little bit more of the bit. So here's the two boards I'm going to use. This one is oak and this one is walnut. And you can see the dovetail joint here. I'm going to draw my first circle, and on the surface it's going to be 6 inches. On the bottom side it's going to be 4.5. And that's a very important point, because I've seen quite a few of these made, and people decide to make the bottom one say 3 inches. Well, you're going to lose 3/4 of an inch in radius. That's 1.5 inches. So you'll wind up with only 1.5 inches as a foot, and you can't. Then you got the problem of gripping it. I've got my compass set to 3 inches. I put a little piece of some balsa wood that I had at the center of my piece so that the compass will have a place to grab. So I'm ready to draw my first circle. I'll put it right there. Draw it around. Right there should be 3 3/4 inches. This will be my next circle. And I draw in both directions so that I get a good dark line. The next one is at 9 inches. So half of 9 should be 4.5. This is the last one, and it should be the maximum width. Okay, pencil got a little bit loose there, but I need to try to stay on the outside of that line to get the maximum width. Okay, this is a little bit scary for me, so if you try something like this, be very, very careful. I do have a new blade. Make sure all my guards are in place and tightened. And I have to do this totally by hand. I don't have a jig or anything to do this with, so here we go. Start with the center one. Like I said, that's a little bit scary. But here's my first piece. And that looks like it'll line up alright. So when I glue this back together, these will slide together. And I think I'm going to use epoxy because there's quite a bit of open space in there, and I think that'll probably work better. Let's put some epoxy in there. These will be my centers, and when I glue them back together, I will probably glue them at an angle so I'll get a revolving pattern as we go, and you can see the dovetail there. And I'll go ahead and cut two more at 45-degree angles, and the last outside one will be at a normal 90-degree angle. And there's the final ring. And like this edge here, I cut it at a 90 because that'll give me a little bit more room for shaping. Here are my cut pieces, and these will be the center, then these are the other rings, and this will be the final top ring. And I'm ready to epoxy them together. Sanded these a little bit to get a better fit. They're sliding through quite loosely. I have a little block of wood, and I have a piece of wax paper, and some glue and a brush. So I'm going to try to get as much glue on these as I can. Get all the surfaces coated. And then we'll try to clamp them together. Looks like I got glue on my wax paper already. So we'll slide these together. They smear around nicely. But I'm going to put them together this way with the edges up so that they concave in. I'm going to put another little piece of wax paper across the center. Hopefully that won't stick very much. Then I'll use a little block of wood here to help hold them flat. Then I'm going to clamp them with this clamp. And I have it partially set so I can use this clamp. And I'm not going to clamp it very tight just yet. Then I'm going to need another clamp. Oh, maybe you can see it better that way. I'll use another clamp. This one. Clamp across this way slightly. Get a little pressure on it. Because I want these to hold together as best as I can. And clamping it on that edge is kind of difficult. It's got to grip just right. And it looks like that's working. I can see glue squeezing out. So this has been drying several hours, so I'm going to open up the first one here. Scrape this excess glue off before it hardens any worse. And try to get excess glue off this one also. Well, that doesn't look too bad. Okay. So there's number one. So here's my first two rings that are taken apart, and I think I'm going to put them at 1/4 of a turn each, so when you look at it from the side you'll see the dovetails and the change in the color from light to dark. So I have all the pieces glued and centered and marked, and now I'm going to start putting a little pressure on it. And I'm just going to try to press it only until the glue stops squirting, so no more glue seeps out. I don't want to harm it any. Okay, so now we'll start getting a little pressure on it. And you can see the glue squeezing out. This is a 12-ton press, so I don't want to put very much pressure on it at all. Here's my bowl. It's dried overnight. Looks okay. Don't see anything wrong with it. I drew some guide circles here to show me where, and I'm having the center marked. I figured that out with a compass. And what I'm going to do is attach a little piece of brown paper and a little glue block, and this already has my dovetail in it. It already has my dovetail in it there. And so I'm going to apply a little bit of glue here. And I'm just going to use my finger, the block, and the bowl. I'm going to take some off and smear it over here. And I'm going to take this little block of brown, usually called crafts paper. Craft paper. It's from a brown paper bag. Those are getting a little bit hard to find. And I'm going to line that up in my circle. So that way I know where that needs to be. And then I'm going to apply my, this is a piece of cherry, and I'll put that across the grain. A little bit of pressure. And I'm just going to apply enough pressure to get some squeeze out. Okay, and I'll let that dry for at least a couple of hours before I even begin to spin it. I'm about ready to start turning, and it's about 1/8 of an inch out of round. And that's not necessarily that things are not centered. It can also do with how I cut and glue these rings together. They're not exactly round anyhow. I have my face shield. I have it mounted on my chuck. I do have a insert that I made out of a round piece of wood here, and I have my cone live center in there for a little bit of extra support. So here we go. And that seems like way too slow. It's about 410 RPMs, and we'll try to start there. Okay, so that I'm still have a lot of saw cuts in there. I'm not quite down as far as I need to be, but I can see my my seams, my dovetails a lot better now, and they don't look too bad. I'm kind of partial to my round nose scraper, so I'm going to use that a little bit and see how that goes. So I'm going to work a little bit on the front edge and see if we can true that up. Oh, that looks a lot better. Let me put my camera overhead and I'll start on the outside. Yeah, battery ran out a little while ago. What I was saying is I'm not that good with the bowl gouge, and so as a personal preference, I'm gonna go back to my round nose, my 1-inch round nose, and try that. I'm in here at an angle and not a good position, so I feel more comfortable with the round nose chisel. Spin at 550. Well, it's looking good. This needs to go a little deeper. Feels a little thick in here. It's right there. But the edges are gone. They're blended in pretty well. So let me go across that band a little bit more. So I have some two-part epoxy. I'll start mixing those together. And I have about 5 minutes, probably 4 minutes. 1 minute to mix and 4 minutes to spread. And I like epoxy so much better because it dries and it hardens. Okay. And all I'm going to do is smear it on among the cracks there and hope it soaks in deep enough. From here out, I'm just going to go over it one more time and scrape off the epoxy and try to come up with a good single surface for the rest of it. Okay, I'm going to continue on the inside now, and I smeared a little bit of epoxy on some of the seams and dovetails, and that'll be part of the first thing to go when I start turning them. And I think I'm going to continue with my round nose scraper. There's not a whole lot of wood to remove, so it's mostly just evening up the seams. And I'm still spinning at about 450. Put a little bit of glue and sawdust in some of these big gaps, and and we'll see how they turn out. This one actually looks like it's low, like it needs to be much deeper there. It feels thin already, but it doesn't need a whole lot more. That is about a 1/4 inch there already. So I can't go much lower than that. Oh, that cleaned up some of them there. I'm going to give it a coat of lacquer-based sanding sealer. And this walnut is very soft. It's very old. The original dresser that I salvaged it from was about 1941, I believe. And the oak is also very soft. And this will harden it up. And maybe I'll get some better, turn a little bit better. And you can see it really brings out the color in the grain. And you can see that it just soaks right in. So it really does help stabilize the wood, filling the grain. I have a fan on. Glad I do. Not good stuff to get in your lungs and limit my exposure to it. Okay, I started to hollow out the center here. Battery ran out there. And what I'm going to do is hollow this part out, go a little bit deeper. I don't want to go very deep. It's only 3/4 of an inch deep. And trying to blend in this edge here where you can see you can still see saw cuts. Okay, well that actually looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and start sanding it, and I'll do that offline, and we'll see how well that looks. I may have to give it another coat of sanding sealer. I sanded the bowl with 120, 150, and 220. And I'm going to give it another coat of sanding sealer, lacquer-based sanding sealer. And I'm going to let that dry overnight, and then we'll get down to doing the real finishing. So here's my finished bowl, and it looks pretty good, but I did have a few little problems with it. And let me get the camera in a little closer. The outside seams are not too bad. They seem tight enough. Some of these gaps have been filled by glue and sawdust during the process. The inside ones, some are not quite as good. This one here, you can see there's spaces around. You can see there's spaces around the dovetails. This one also has large spaces around the dovetails. This one too has, you can see a lot of glue that when I cut in there I couldn't really get it all out of there. But it's not too bad a ball. The dovetails look, I like the way the dovetails look. I wish I could have got them more precise, a little bit tighter. These all seem to have small chips in them. But for a first effort, I don't think it was too bad. I hope to do another one, and maybe I can get those dovetails a little bit tighter. If you've enjoyed this video, click on like. If you're not a subscriber, click on subscribe. If you're not a member of YouTube, sign up for an account. It's quick and easy. You can ask questions, get answers, and leave comments. So until next time, take care.